It's important to talk about cabinet coatings because they always work together as a system, and the application of them is also a system. Every step in that system needs to be painstakingly optimized to ensure that the coating performs. And every product used needs to be applied for a specific reason. A mistake or omission at any step of the process can mean the whole coating fails and needs to be stripped and redone. It's only as strong as its weakest link. First, I'll start at the lower end of the spectrum. These are consumer-grade paint products, typically only used by residential painters that also offer cabinet painting. The products they're using are available from stores like Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams. They'll carry names like Advance, Cabinet Coat, Emerald Urethane, or Pro Classic. There are also a huge variety of primers that they could potentially use. Now, one issue with these products is that they aren't designed for use on cabinets. Professional cabinet coatings are often KCMA certified, which means they've been subjected to tests from the Kitchen Cabinet Manufacturers Association and can stand up really well to stains, chemical and water exposure, temperature fluctuation, expansion and contraction of the doors, and scratch and dent resistance. Materials like Advance will stain on contact with things like coffee or wine and will actually break down and turn to mush after exposure to the oils on your hands after a period of time. They will hopefully look good once refinished, but don't expect them to stand up to the rigors of daily use. These paints typically take about 30 days to cure and are very soft until then. And even once cured, they're incredibly soft compared to the products I'll discuss later. And you can easily dig your fingernail in once cured, which means they'll be much more susceptible to dings, dents, stains, or scratches. Cost-wise, these products are usually less than half the cost of industrial KCMA certified coatings available to the cabinet industry. So if your quote includes these products, you just better make sure it's one of the cheap ones. Now, up next, we have professional grade products available to professional cabinet refinishers and cabinet finishers. I'll break these products down first into waterborne versus solvent-borne, and then talk about 1K versus 2K products. Solvent-borne products can encompass a huge array of paints, but in cabinetry, that term has typically meant lacquer. For years, it was the industry standard for the hardest, smoothest, and most stain-resistant finish for cabinets. It's only recently that the waterborne technology has been able to match that performance. The problem with solvent-borne lacquer is that it can be explosive, it's highly carcinogenic, and extremely high in VOCs. The other issue is that it continues to off-gas VOCs days after it's been sprayed, which means an unpleasant odor and VOCs are being introduced into the home. With stricter VOC and safety restrictions on the job site, it's also illegal to spray within the home. It's only allowed to be applied in an industrial shop environment. Refinishers may spray your doors in solvent-borne lacquer, and that will provide a strong finish, but please be aware of anyone applying lacquer or other solvent-borne products like oil-based primers in your home, as it's exposing you to a heavy dose of carcinogens. Waterborne finishes are products that are suspended in water and typically also clean up with water. They also dry via the evaporation of that water. Now, Europeans, specifically the Italians, have been pioneering water-based coatings for use on cabinetry. The great thing about water-based finishes is that they're low in VOCs, contain little or no carcinogens, are not flammable or explosive, and are not as brittle as lacquer once they're dried. They also don't off-gas in the same way that solvent-borne finishes do, so there's no concern of contaminating the air in your home once the project is done. At Cabinet Painting Vancouver, we now use waterborne technology for all of our applications as we believe it's the way of the future, it's the best solution for the safety of our team and clients, and it's better for the environment. Up next, we'll be discussing 1K versus 2K products. 1K or single component products are ready to use right out of the can. They're generally less hard and chemical or stain resistant than 2K or two component products. Now, 2K products will have another product added to the paint, which might be a catalyst, cross-linker, or hardener. The reason for adding it is it drastically increases the chemical, stain, scratch, and dent resistance. When I referred to waterborne coatings being comparable in durability to the solvent-borne lacquers, I was referring specifically to these 2K waterborne coatings. Here at Cabinet Painting Vancouver, we use strictly 2K finishes as we want the durability to be as good as humanly possible. Now I'm going to show you a little demo here of the scratch, stain, and adhesion resistance of a 2K waterborne paint versus consumer grade paint. Okay, so what I want to demonstrate here is the final hardness of the coating, the scratch resistance of the coating, and also what an adhesion failure looks like. This is quite common if the person who's refinished your cabinets hasn't used an appropriate adhesion primer, they haven't done their prep process properly, they haven't degreased the cabinets, or they've used a top coat that's very soft and is not a two-component water-based polyurethane or something similar. So you'll see as I imprint with my fingernail, I can very easily press into the coating. It is soft. So you could just imagine anytime you bump your cabinet, hit it, drop something on it, you're going to have an issue. Now this is what an adhesion failure looks like. When I scratch at the coating with my fingernail, it very quickly goes down right to the original substrate because it doesn't have good adhesion. And in fact, if I took a flat scraper, I could just peel this coating off. And this is what you really want to avoid, because this means the entire coating has to be stripped off or new doors ordered in order to correctly address the problem and make sure that you have proper adhesion. Now I'll do a little scratch test just so you can see the final hardness and ability to stand up to scratches. As you can see, immediately that product is coming off straight down to the original door. So this is what your doors are going to look like after a year of use, and in extreme cases you'll usually see them come up within the first 30 or so days after refinishing. So this is an example of a door that we've done in our two-component water-based polyurethane. These products are a completely different animal from the products available at any paint store. As you can see, with my fingernail, I can't make any appreciable mark. The only thing coming off my fingers is the paint from the last door. I can press as hard as I want, and it's not really making any kind of noticeable mark. And now, if I were to take my fingernail and scratch as hard as I can't not only penetrate the top coat, but I also won't get anything to come up, and I won't penetrate down to the original door surface, and there's actually nothing coming off on my fingernail either. Now we'll demonstrate the same test I did on the other door with a key. Now obviously this is sharp metal, it's going to damage the surface, but the point here is that even still, it's not going to go down to the original substrate. And that's important because you might have a little scratch, but versus the other door, you're not going to see the original substrate because the primer has an amazing bond and the top coat is much harder. So as you can see, there's no damage. The only gray that you're seeing is actually metal transferring off of the key and onto the surface, which can be cleaned off. And the surface is more or less intact. There's very little damage apparent. And that's going to mean your cabinets are going to look great for many years as opposed to 30 days. And so that's the difference that your cabinet coatings make in the final durability and longevity for your kitchen.